They skipped Mother's Day like it was nothing, not a call, not a text, not even one of those lazy copied messages people send when they remember at the last second. And then a couple of weeks later, they showed up at my house asking me for money with straight faces and open hands. I remember sitting there listening to them explain their problems and feeling something inside me finally crack after years of swallowing disappointment. In that moment all I could think was, am I really expected to pretend this doesn't hurt? To smile and hand over my wallet like I don't matter at all? Tell me honestly before you judge me, would you have done what I did? Or would you have let it slide like I had so many times before? I've been a mother for most of my life. I had my kids young. And from the second I found out I was pregnant, my life stopped being about me. Every decision I made revolved around them. I stayed in a marriage longer than I should have because I wanted them to have a stable home. I worked jobs I hated because they paid the bills. I went without new clothes, without vacations, without rest, so they could have what they needed when their father passed away. I became everything at once: mom, dad, emotional support, financial safety net. I never complained, not out loud at least, because I believed that one day they'd understand. I thought gratitude would come naturally. My oldest, Sarah, has always been strong-willed. She's smart, ambitious, and used to being in control growing up. She learned early how to talk her way out of trouble and into favors. My son Adam is softer, more sensitive, but he leans heavily on his sister. He avoids conflict and usually goes along with whatever she says. My youngest, Lily, is still at home, still figuring herself out. And she sees things more clearly than the other two ever did. She watched me struggle, she watched me give. And she noticed things the others didn't. Mother's Day used to be sacred to me, not because I needed gifts, but because it was one day where I felt seen. When the kids were little, they'd bring me handmade cards with crooked letters and glitter glued everywhere. I kept every single one, even when money was tight. They'd try, and that effort meant everything. As they grew older and moved out, celebrations got smaller, but the acknowledgement was still there. A call, a visit, a simple thank you for everything. That was enough for me. The year they skipped it, I didn't expect much. I told myself not to get my hopes up. Still, I cleaned the house like I always do. When there's even a small chance of visitors, I cooked extra food and kept my phone near by. I woke up that morning with a quiet excitement I didn't want to admit to myself. Hours passed. Morning turned into afternoon, then evening. My phone stayed silent. I checked it more times than I care to admit, refreshing messages, pretending I wasn't waiting. When night came, and there was still nothing, the disappointment settled deep. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was heavy and lonely. The next day, I made excuses for them. They're adults, they're busy. Life gets in the way. But then I saw their social media posts. Sarah was out at brunch with friends, smiling, posting photos. Adam was online sharing jokes, clearly not disconnected from the world. That's when it stopped feeling like an accident and started feeling like a choice. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to beg for appreciation. I just went quiet. 2 weeks later, Sarah called and asked if they could come over to talk. Her voice was polite in a way that felt wrong, like she was bracing for something. The second she said it, I knew they wanted money. I could almost predict the words before she said them. When they arrived, they sat on my couch like guests, not like children visiting their mother. After a bit of awkward small talk, Sarah explained that Adam's car needed repairs and she was behind on rent. They asked if I could help them out just temporarily. As they talked, I waited for it, the acknowledgement, the apology, even a passing mention of Mother's Day. It never came. That was the moment I realized something painful. They didn't forget. They just didn't think it mattered. I told them I needed time to think and asked them to leave. That night I lay awake, replaying everything I thought about. Every time they'd called only when they needed something. Every holiday where I did all the work. Every time I made myself available, no matter how tired I was. I asked myself if I'd created this dynamic by never saying no. And for the first time I wondered what would happen if I didn't. Over the next few days something shifted inside me. The sadness turned into clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired of being invisible, tired of being taken for granted. I realized that if I gave them the money, nothing would change. They'd learn that my feelings didn't matter as long as they eventually got what they wanted, and I couldn't do that anymore. Not to myself. So I invited them back and told them. I decided. They came in smiling, already relieved, already assuming the answer. I asked them to sit down and I calmly brought up Mother's Day. The room went quiet in a way that felt uncomfortable. Sarah laughed awkwardly and said she couldn't believe she forgot. Adam apologized softly, barely meeting my eyes. I told them how it felt to be forgotten, how much it hurt, and how that hurt didn't disappear just because time passed. Sarah brushed it off, saying it wasn't intentional, that I shouldn't take it personally. Then she steered the conversation right back to money. That's when I said no. I told them I wouldn't be giving them anything. I explained that I needed to feel respected and appreciated. Not just needed, their reactions were immediate and intense. Sarah accused me of being petty and manipulative. Adam said I will. Choosing money over my kids, I stayed calm, even though my hands were shaking. I told them this wasn't about money. It was about boundaries. I told them I loved them, but I wouldn't be treated like afterthought anymore. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to really think about this. Imagine being in my place, years of giving, sacrificing, showing up, and then being ignored on the one day meant to acknowledge you, then being asked for money like it's owed to them. Would you have said yes just to keep the peace, or would you have finally said no, pause for a second, and comment what you would have done? Because this decision changed everything. After I refused, things escalated quickly. Sarah stood up and told me I was acting like a victim. She said being a mother meant giving without expecting anything in return. That sentence cut deeper than she'll ever know. I told her being a mother doesn't mean being invisible. Adam tried to calm things down, but still insisted I should help them. I told them this was the first time I was choosing myself, and that it didn't mean I loved them any less. They left angry, slamming the door behind them. The silence afterward was brutal. Days went by without a call, then weeks. I questioned myself constantly. I wondered if I'd gone too far, if I'd pushed them away for good. But something else happened too. I felt lighter for the first time in years. I wasn't waiting for my phone to ring. Lily hugged me one night and told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. That meant more to me than she'll ever know. Eventually, Adam reached out. He apologized. He said he'd never really thought about how much I did for them until I stopped. We talked honestly, not like mother and son, but like two adults. He told me he was figuring things out on his own and that he understood why I'd said no. Sarah took longer. When she finally reached out months later, it wasn't for money. It was to apologize, awkwardly and imperfectly, but sincerely enough to start rebuilding. I never gave them the money, and they figured it out. They always do. What changed was the way they treated me afterward. Calls became more frequent, conversations became more genuine. They stopped assuming and started asking. I learned that love doesn't mean limitless sacrifice, and boundaries don't mean rejection. Skipping Mother's Day was the wake-up call I didn't know I needed. It showed me that if I didn't value myself, no one else would. Standing up for myself was terrifying, but it saved me from a lifetime of resentment. If you think I did the right thing, like this video, if you think I was wrong, tell me why. I truly want to hear your perspective. Subscribe for more real emotional stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.